you doing, guys? I want to show you my plane today. Got an old plane here that I've had for a while. It's my VAS Tech Racer. Some of you may have seen it recently. I posted a video on Instagram that kind of got a lot of attention, and on Facebook it got a lot of attention about the LEDs that I've recently put into this plane. So I've had this plane for a while. I had to take it apart to do some repairs to it. While it was apart, I decided to make it a night flyer. So what I've done is I've added LEDs to the bottom here. You can see right here, these are 12 volt addressable LEDs. I'm running this plane on 3S, so the 12 volts, you know, straight from the battery. And these are addressable LEDs, not RGB LEDs. Now the difference is addressable LEDs can do more than one color in a strip at a time, whereas RGB can change color, but the whole strip has to change color. So the addressable LEDs allow you to do a lot more funky patterns and a lot more distinctive light patterns than the RGB LEDs or just regular LEDs do. So I'll have a link to these in the description, but if you want to look for them yourself, you want to look for 12 volt or whatever voltage you want to use. They also come in 5 volt. Addressable LEDs, not waterproof. You want the not waterproof ones that come without the shell on them. Okay, and when you're installing them in the plane, you want to do basically what I've done right here. You want to cut routes into the foam. I basically used the Dremel with a router bit and routed channels into the foam and put the LEDs face in to the foam. That might seem counterintuitive, like why wouldn't you want the LEDs to face out? But you actually want the LEDs to face into the foam so that they light up the foam. And what happens when you do that is you get a very creamy neon kind of effect. And I'll show you what I mean. Now there's another part to this that we have to talk about, which is a controller, but we'll get to that in a minute. I just want to show you what these LEDs look like there when they're plugged in. Now it's light in here, but you can see that you can definitely see through the top of the foam and through the bottom the light that's coming through. And if I turn off a light, you can really, in the dark, they really light up a wide area of that foam. You can really see these lighting effects. So I have some footage of the plane flying. I'll put it in the video here so you can see it. But at nighttime, it's really an impressive thing to see. So if you're going to do this to a plane, you want to get a white foam plane. You don't want any black foam or anything that's been painted or finished. You want plain white foam. And you want to do just what I've done here is put them face in so that they light up that foam. Okay, now as I was saying, if you're going to use regular LEDs, just plain 12 volt LEDs need no controller. They're one color. You know, they just light up one color. You can use RGB LEDs, which can light up multiple colors but all at the same time. And those require a controller. Or you can use addressable LEDs, which can do multiple colors. And those also require a controller. Now, some people do this with an Arduino. You can use an Arduino in your build. I didn't really have room for that in this plane. This is basically just a big spec wing. So what I've done is I cut a little slot here and I put in this controller right here. You can see it right there, and it's just 3 buttons: mode, speed, and mode up, mode down, and speed. It says 5 to 24 volts. Sometimes when you see these controllers, they say 5 volt out, and that's because they come with a USB on them. Don't be fooled. Whatever voltage you put into this controller is the voltage that comes out. It's not a 5 volt out. So if you put 12 volts in, it'll put 12 volts out. I learned the hard way with a roll of 5 volt LEDs. Now anyway, this little controller right here, I'll put a link to the LEDs and I'll put a link to a controller, but it's not exactly this one. I can't remember where I got this one, but there's a very similar one available on Amazon that you can get. And I'll put a link to it. It should work exactly the same way. So when you plug these in, what you get is a pattern of lights. There you go, you can see. And actually, if you press the mode here, the mode button, up or down, it scrolls through the different light patterns. So you can see that that's that pattern, and you can scroll through this pattern, and then I scroll the other way through the various patterns of lights. So you could set any one pattern and fly, or there's another trick to this controller. If you push both mode buttons at the same time, like this, it will actually scroll through all the different light modes, you know, one after the other, just changing colors and modes. And this is how I flew this plane. I just set it to random, not random, but to scroll through all its modes. And then in the air, it just kept changing colors and made for a really cool effect in the air. So I'll put a link to the controller, and I'll put a link to the LEDs in the description of this video. Now, the only other thing I would want to tell you is the way that I set mine up. The way these LEDs work is there's a ground, a voltage, and a signal. And you'll see them right here. You see I've got these 3 wires right here. There's a ground, voltage, and signal. And the signal goes into an LED strip and then out of an LED strip. So you'll have signal in, signal out, signal in, signal out, signal in, signal out, signal in, signal out. All the way. Or I'm sorry, it'll be signal in, signal out, signal in, signal out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Now, I could have gone from here, from this out, over to this in, and continued. And what would have happened was when I turned the lights on, it would have ran through the whole pattern on this side and then run through the whole pattern on that side. That's something you can experiment with. But what I decided to do was make 2 separate circuits. You can see I've got another set of wires right here. And I just combined the 2 signal wires into one and hooked them to the controller so that the light pattern on both sides is the same and it's symmetrical throughout the wing. And I think that gives a really neat look. So, there ain't really much else to say. It's a pretty simple thing to do. You just I just put a JST in here and connected the controller, and the controller connects to the lights. It's 12 volt. I'm running on 3S, so it's native. So if you want to do something like this, that's how you would do it. And enjoy, man. Put some LEDs in your planes and go night flying. And check out the footage here that my wife was lovely enough to take for me. And as I was flying around tonight on a very calm, very beautiful night. All right, enjoy. Bye-bye.